First, if you would, pull out your cell phones. And I know Trudy always says, go ahead and take a selfie and post it to your favorite social media to let everybody know that you're here today. And after that, if you would, put it on silence and turn it off. Get their moving. Okay. If we look at our readers for today, Lakeisha Lincoln and Maggie Roth. And now I would like to call up Pamela Walters to do the Pledge of Allegiance to our national. Now is it Richard?
Okay, if you will all stand, please, and face the flag. Start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now we'll say, in peace. What's up? It's a fun life's not gleaming, we watch out and bright colors. There was time, all that sea was, where some would be dreaming, and the longest spent the longer dreaming. Without knowing that what was still there. Oh, steady the stars steady go, and another day away. Oh, love free and love. That's great.
And now I'd like to call David Nichols up for an invocation and an introduction.
Thank you, Colby. Mr. God, we're thankful so much for our country that we just pledge allegiance to. We are so grateful for being able to live here. We pray that we might rise to the occasion as people and good citizens, members of the Rotary Club that can serve others. So we just pray that we'll all do that together. In Jesus' name, amen.
First thing I'd like to ask, are there any visiting Rotarians from another club here? Any visiting Rotarians? There you go. You just barely a visitor, though. Yeah. That's one of our things I found about turned in my transfer application today. We don't try to steal people from other clubs. There's no improvement. Okay. Anybody else? Let's start over here. Do we want to announce any visitors from here? No, we're going to keep it secret for a while since it belongs. What about over here this time? There you go. I know Jamie already. Thank you, Jamie. How about out here? Anybody? There. Anyone? Any other visitors? Thank you for coming, Jamie. And now I would like to call Paul Gleiser up for This Week in History.
Starting today, on the 14th of March, 1964, Jack Ruby was found guilty in a Dallas courtroom of shooting alleged John F. Kennedy assassin Lee Harvey Oswald. It was the first courtroom verdict ever to be televised live. Ruby was sentenced to death in the electric chair, but the conviction was set aside on appeal. Ruby died of lung cancer on January 3rd, 1967, while awaiting a new trial. On the 15th of March, in 44 BC, Roman dictator Julius Caesar was stabbed 23 times outside the Roman Senate. Caesar's death would come to mark the end of the Roman Republic and the rise of the Roman Empire. From Caesar's assassination, we get the expression, beware the March, which is tomorrow. On the 16th of March, 1945, at the cost of 6,821 killed in action and a staggering 19,217 wounded, the Japanese island of Iwo Jima was declared secured. The battle began on February 19th, ran nearly a month. It was on February 23rd, just a few days into the battle, that Joe Rosenthal's iconic photo of the raising of the flag of Mount Suribachi was taken. Of the 21,000 Japanese defending the island, only 216 were taken prisoner. 3 of the 6 Marines in Rosenthal's photo wound up being killed in action after raising the flag. On the 17th of March, 1762, 1,301 years to the day after his death, Irish soldiers serving in the British military garrisoned in New York City staged the first parade in honor of St. Patrick. Patrick converted thousands of previously pagan 5th century Irishmen to Catholicism and made the 3-leaved silver the symbol of Ireland by likening it to the Holy Trinity. On Monday, the 18th of March, 1937, close to home, the Consolidated Elementary School in New London, Texas, about 22 miles that way, where we're sitting, was destroyed following a natural gas explosion. 300 were killed, many more badly injured. The explosion occasioned the opening of Mother Frances Hospital a day early in Tyler, a day earlier than planned in order to treat the injured. As a result of that accident, the natural gas industry began mixing methanol mercaptan, a naturally occurring gas, into the natural gas supply as an odorant so that leaks of methane, which is colorless and odorless, could be easily detected by consumers. On the 19th of March 2003, 90 minutes after the deadline that a UN resolution had placed upon Iraqi President Saddam Hussein to leave Iraq, Operation Iraqi Freedom began with a Tomahawk cruise missile attack on military targets in Baghdad. And finally, on the 20th of March, 1854, meeting in Ripon, Wisconsin, former members of the Whig Party met to form a new political party in opposition to slavery. The meeting would go on to be recognized as the founding of the Republican Party. Birthdays in the coming week, starting today, 3 of them. Producer, arranger, musician Quincy Jones turns 91 today. He shares a birthday the exact same day with British actor Michael Caine, who also turns 91 today. Billy Crystal shares their birthday a few years earlier. Billy Crystal turns 76 today. Any Gilmore Girls fans in the room? Truth. How many Gilmore Girls fans? Lauren Graham turns 57 on Saturday, and actress Glenn Close turns 77 on Tuesday, and that's this week in history.
Wow. What?
And now we're going to do the good news basket. Ollie, will be passing that around and bring them up around.
Anybody have anything? I can do the mic.
I do.
I'll make something up.
I know.
I need to handle the answer right. No, it's quite a beer.
I just want to say how super duperly excited I am. My 3rd Miracle Nugget grandson will be here in the middle of April.
Mama Rotary, 55 today.
I had my grandsons in California with me. They have now decided they want to live in that house now too. So they're stand in line.
Consecutive quarter of revenue gains. We're playing a little in the pot.
$2 for you guys gaining a very good friend of mine, John Hart. Probably will be a tremendous Rotary community.
And officially know my granddaughter's name. It took 3 days, but she is Alina. Renee, wait, Leanne. Out there Saturday.
Let's see if I can catch her today. Hold on. Okay. There you go.
Thank you.
I am going to be the proud great grandmother of my second great grandchild. And it's a little boy born in July.
Well, I just have to say, and I only took $2.25. It is some of the greatest news I've ever had to have my longtime friend John Hart come to this club. I just want to say real quickly that when I was first introduced to Rotary and I was asked to do a presentation, I joined the South Sider, and the main reason I joined was because John and his wife Nancy, and we have been very good friends for a long time. But John is absolutely the epitome of Rotarian. I love him dearly.
Okay.
So we will move on to Rotary business. We have a 5 o'clock somewhere coming up next Tuesday, March 19th at Hobbies. It's not somewhere, it's at Hobbies. But we don't, then it'll be at 5 o'clock. But next, we do have somebody, we have a donor match for Polio Plus. If we can raise $750, they will match $750. I know we've been working on hitting our goal of $3,000 to get our dissertation. So if y'all have or want to donate to Polio Plus, please get with Holly. The Henderson Rotary Club is having a golf tournament on April 29th. It's a C email sheet. If you want any additional information, you want to put a team in, if you want to try to join a team, let me know. But we are going to need to support their Rotary Club and get some teams in there.
Kobe, can I interrupt one?
Yes.
Or aren't we having a team in that?
Yes.
In that?
I don't know if we are. Trudy would like to be on, I don't know.
We don't have a team.
Two more spots.
Okay.
Maybe one more spot. And then next, there are sponsorships still available for the Young Citizens Banquet. If you are interested in a sponsorship, please get with David Jones. He's not here today, but his information is on Club Runner. Historic Tyler is coming up. It's coming up April 6th and 7th. I know Claudia is sponsoring a house. Are you still needing volunteers for your home?
Gosh, I think I do especially, and Holly was really sweet and sent out the sign-up sheet, and it updates real time, so if you would, click on that link, and if you have time Sunday afternoon, that would be great. And thank you for those of you who have already signed up, I appreciate it so much.
Perfect. That'll be the 6th and 7th. There is a party and event the 5th. Yes, sir.
Can I say something? Talking about historic knowledge. For the last 2 years, we've had this project where we've taken photographs of grand homes in Tyler. Believe it or not, even though Tyler is known for those homes in the Azalea District and other historic districts, a book has never been done. This book is going to be 9.5 by 12. It's going to be about 300 pages. It's at the publisher now. The book the initial publication is going to be about 300 or 400 copies. Everybody in here, every home in Tyler is going to have it. It's going to be heirloom quality. So the only bad thing is it was supposed to be out during the Historic Tyler on tour, 1st of April. There's been some delays, so it probably won't happen until May or June. But stay tuned for that. Because everybody in here is gonna want one of those books. They'll go fast. It's not like they're gonna be sitting in a store in a warehouse somewhere. So anyway, I'll keep you, informed about how that goes.
Yeah, that's a perfect.
Next, we have a date change for the Great Tyler cleanup. I believe it's because it was on the same weekend as the historic home tour. But that date is now April 13th from 9 to noon at Burkeville Park. Lunch following at Southside Park. Please use the Sign Up Genius if you are interested. We would like to have a lot of people out there to represent our Rotary and our Rotary clubs. If you are willing and able, please sign up. We do have a multi-district conference coming up, April 26th through the 28th at Choctaw Resort in Oklahoma. It just gives you really a better idea of what our district is doing, what we're doing, what Rotary is about. If you've never been to one, I highly recommend it. Get to meet a lot of different people, a lot of different clubs. And if you do want to register, it is on our district website, rotarydistrict5830.org. Reminder, please, for the East Texas Food Bank Mobile Pantry, I know that they are very appreciative of those grocery sacks. I got the privilege to take some by a couple weeks ago, and they were very excited when I brought them. So if you do have any extras, please bring them by. Holly is still needing volunteer hours for February. So if you have any volunteer hours with any organization, any club, your church, anything, please email those over to Holly to get those on the list. The program for next week is offered Annie McCarty. And now I will turn the microphone over to me to introduce the speaker. I do have the privilege to introduce Cheryl Torres. She is the director and driving force behind Elijah's Retreat since January 2018. She has a BA in psychology from Rockhurst University, and she has done amazing work. She let me open it up, and I would, after reading her bio and everything, she has a servant's heart. So it's very nice to have her at Rotary, because that is the biggest thing, and I know that she would make a wonderful Rotarian. She's very busy. She's been married for 15 years to her husband, Jason, and she has 5 wonderful kids. Cheryl has been in leadership at Elijah's Retreat, and she's seen growth from 34 families in 2017 to 275 families in 2023. Well, if you would, please join me in welcoming Cheryl Torres.
And thank you guys. I'm very honored to be able to come out here today and speak with your amazing group. I'm excited to get to know you guys better, and truly humbled to be here today. So thank you guys very much. But I think it's best to always hear about an organization from the people we serve. Would you guys agree with that? So I'm going to let you guys listen to some of our families at Elijah's Retreat.
I don't think it's good.
Oh, it's not going to play?
No.
It's not going to play? Okay. Well, then come on. So let's continue then. So real quick, what do you know about autism? You guys have all heard the word autism. You probably know people who are facing autism. Unless you have a loved one with autism, you may not know a ton about it unless you're working in that community. So autism is a spectrum disorder, right? And so it's a complex neurodevelopment condition that affects communication, social interaction, behavior, and interests. What does that mean? Okay, so what do you guys know about autism? Anybody? What do you know about autism?
I have a nephew that is autistic, and I deal every now and then with parents of kids that are autistic. And nowadays, we know that they're capable of a whole lot more than people thought 50 years ago, or 20 years ago.
100%.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
I think Elon Musk.
He really came out and declared it to be true. Yes.
Both my great grandchildren were autistic.
Wonderful. How old are they?
39 and 7.
Sky's the limit. Okay. Okay. So you guys know, from what you've just heard a little bit, how old is you said grandson, nephew? What?
They're great.
Your great nephew.
And another young man.
Diagnosed.
City. When I met him, he was 13, probably 15 or 16 now. Like straight A's and B's.
Sure, brilliant. In your own right.
Yeah.
For sure. So autism is a spectrum, right? So we do know that there is a genetic component to autism, right? And so that has research has shown there is a genetic component to it. And so with that, it depends on what groups. Yeah, sorry, I do. That's okay. That's all right. Depends on what chromosomes are affected as to where they're going to lie on that spectrum. Okay, and so with that, you have individuals who maybe are nonverbal, who aren't speaking, who have a lot of behavioral problems, versus you have Elon Musk on the other end, right? Or Temple Grandin, if you guys have heard about her. And so with that, there's a wide spectrum. So the saying is, if you've met one person on the autism spectrum, you've met one person on the autism spectrum. Out of the Lives Retreat, we have over 500 families, or over 300 families, but over 500 kids on the spectrum. And I have to say, I've only met one on the spectrum. They're all unique, amazing individuals who are brilliant. But they do think very differently. Their world is very different from their size. So one of the things that you notice about an individual on the spectrum is that they experience the world through their senses in a very different way than I do. Okay? So what does that look like? So I like to use this image up here, right, of a soundboard, mixing board. So individuals on the autism spectrum have a very different categorical system for any sensory input that they receive. They do not have the ability to filter out input. They're receiving all input at all times. So have you ever stayed in a hotel and you couldn't stop ignoring that air conditioner? But of course at your own house, you don't, right? Unless that energy bill comes in and you realize it's kind of high. But because we have the capability of filtering out what of this input is important, what's going to hurt me, what is frightening to me. There's a line, you're listening to every little crackle of the limbs and trees, right? And what is unimportant. Individuals on the autism spectrum have this soundboard all up, every dial, all the time. So they're constantly paying attention to everything they're wearing. They're paying attention to everyone's voices at the same level. So you guys you're paying attention to me, you're looking at me, so my voice might be heightened over the other noises because you have the ability to turn that knob up because you're paying attention to it. They don't have that ability. All noise, all feeling, all smells, all tastes are all at the same level all the time. That's a really different world than we live in. They can't adjust that. They would if they could. So they have to cope in a very different way. So that looks very different. So they have to learn how to filter input through all of that chaos. And they have to learn how to cope and calm down in the midst of that chaos. So if you can imagine going into Walmart, every noise and smell in Walmart all at the same level is a little overwhelming, right? So another difference with individuals in the autism spectrum is soothing. So there's the thing called internally soothing versus externally soothing. We all know that with babies, right? When a baby starts crying, we're not going to expect them to have time out and calm down and internally soothe, right? We're going to pick them up. We're going to rock them. We're giving them external stimuli. So we're tightening, we're hugging them, we're shushing them, we're rocking. We're giving them sensory input to help them calm down. As we grow, most of us who are neurotypical are able to then start to internally soothe and calm down, right? Public speaking, not always everyone's favorite thing, but you have to internally calm down. You can't be up here acting crazy, right? So we have to internally learn how to soothe ourselves. Individuals on the autism spectrum will never have that ability. Yet again, just like they can't turn those knobs down and focus only on one thing, they can't ever internally soothe. They will always require external stimuli to calm down. So what does that look like? That's going to be different, right? So when you get to be 2 years of age and you don't know your child's autistic and you tell them, okay, we're going to go to timeout, or all those different parenting tricks to help them learn how to internally soothe, how to go from us soothing them to them soothing themselves, that all has to change. But with an autistic person, it won't. And so that's when we start to get some trouble and disagreements, things aren't working. And so with that, if we do add sensory input to them, they can calm down. It's just a different way of approaching it and a different way of teaching how to cope. But they're always going to require some sort of external stimulus. So the idea is, first, we teach them that there is something that will help. And so we kind of go through 3 S's. of a squeeze, swinging, soothing, and then spinning. Those are all things that kind of help them calm down immediately. But then, and there's a whole bunch of other things out there. But once we teach that will work, we can then gravitate them to knowing other things as they grow older to being more normalized. So you can have something in your pocket that you're fidgeting with, and that would seem pretty normal, but you're still requiring external stimuli to calm down. So the goal is to teach that there is something that will help, and then to teach the parents how to teach them that, and then how to work with that from there, so that they can kind of normalize it to some degree, right? So again, different than regular neurotypical people. Other things that families with autism are facing is that their schedules are crazy. All of us can agree our schedules are crazy. I'm a mom of 5, you guys heard? They're all crazy right now. But imagine on top of school that you're doing 3 to 5 hours a day on therapy for your child, on top of school. That's amazing, right? So you're adding 15 to 25 hours per week for PT, OT, speech therapy, ABA therapy, just to try to help your kid early on in intervention and try to catch up to their peers. That's an amazing amount of commitment. And that drastically affects the entire family, right? And so that's a hardship for the whole family, siblings, mom, dad, everybody. Then on top of that, you have an individual with no visible disability. So have you ever been to the grocery store and you see somebody who's freaking out, who's not okay, right? And maybe they're not 2 years old. Maybe they're 6 years old or 10 years old. We all of a sudden start making judgments on what is going on in this situation. And so it's really hard for families. The only way that they're going to learn to cope with all of that sensory input at Walmart is by going to Walmart and helping them cope through it. And it's not going to look pretty. It's not going to go well until it does. Fair? But the only way a mom can do that and help their kid be able to go shopping later in life is to face this. And so they're taking their kid, who they know is going to freak out, and they're still trying to just get their list done, and they don't have a lot of spare time. And they're going to the store, and their kid totally freaks out, and then they're starting to get heckled by everybody in their community, or people in their community say, "What's wrong with you? Why don't you just parent your kid?" And we have no idea their struggle and how amazing they are for taking their kid to Walmart and facing this, knowing they were going to face it, right? And so they face that everywhere they go. Every situation. And so a lot of families, their family circle of where they go becomes very small because it's so hard, right? Because they get so much judgment. There was one family, I was talking to a mom, and her kid really wanted to go to Disney on Ice. He was all in. Like when these kids are all in, they're all in. Okay, so he had researched it. He could sing every song. He knew all of it. But he was 14 years old. Not who you would think as a gentleman who would want to be excited about Disney on Ice. Fair? Just on first visual. Well, they get there and they get there 2 hours early. Okay? Because she knows it's going to take a long time to go from the parking lot downtown Houston to the big arena and get up into their seat. And it would be better to do that without the crowd than with the crowd. Well, it took them an hour and a half to get up there. At that point, there's a crowd, right? And they get out there in the just right outside of the hallway where they just went maybe 15 more steps, they'd be in their seat. And her son had it, and he was done. And he'd reached his melting point. He was so overwhelmed by everything that was going on, even though what did he want to do? He wanted to go to Disney on Ice, right? If they left, he was going to have that same meltdown in the car because he didn't do it, right? So the mom, this is a 14-year-old kid. This is not a little kid. You just pick up and go. And so she's on the ground with him as he's screaming, "No, I don't want to go. No, I can't do anymore." And the police are called. And the police come up and surround her and say, "Ma'am, your son is saying he doesn't want to go. Why are you making your older son go to this embarrassing thing of Disney on Ice? What are you doing?" And they're trying to get her to escort her son out. She finally, by the grace of God, picks him up and gets in there and gets in his seat. And he loves it. And he has the greatest time. And he's so glad that mom helped him break through that moment, right? But that's the judgment. That's the walk that these moms have to face just to help their kids do what they want to do in life, right? It's like no visible disability is so hard every day. And then, of course, there's all these social inappropriate things. I love our children on the spectrum, our adults on the spectrum, they have no filter, gosh darn it. I wish the whole world had that. You know exactly what they're thinking. That's for sure. But it doesn't always come around socially appropriate, right? So that's another way that the families will struggle with that, is that they'll take them out in public and they'll say things that are just really not appropriate to talk about in public. And then they always say no to everything new, because again, their world is just so very overwhelming. And so a lot of people assume that when they say no, they mean no. And it's not that you're coercing them against their no, it's just no initially means no, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what that is, I don't know how to do that. And that's very different than no, I don't want to do it, right? And so it's a matter of learning what that is, right? And then the other thing that families face is, what does their future look like? You know, as we all have our kids, we all have these plans and ideas of what they're going to grow and do. And as they get older, we see their interests and we have these dreams for them. But some families on the autism spectrum are thinking, who's going to take care of my kid when I'm not here? How do I get them to be able to work independently? How do they live independently? How do they go shopping at Walmart? How do we do all of these things, right? And so that's a whole nother struggle for these families. So their work is tough. It's not, they're the bravest families I think I've ever met. That's for sure. So Elijah's Retreat, what we do at Elijah's Retreat. Any other questions about autism? Concerns about autism? Yeah.
Well, as I was telling you, my granddaughter doesn't have autism, but she has a very rare neurological disorder that simulates a lot of those symptoms. So she gets overstimulated really easily. So her older sister cheers, and when we go to the games, I put earmuffs on her because otherwise that noise really gets to her. So should I not be doing it?
No, it's good. Take them with you. Maybe don't always wear them. Have them with you. Try to get her to where she can stretch, to where she can eventually cope with it, is kind of the goal. But it's really hard. And depending on where you're sitting affects all of that. If you're sitting right next to the band, just give them to her. Try to work with her with that. But yeah, if she wears them all the time, she's just going to become more sensitive, right? So it's a fine balance. You got to figure out where you can push on that, okay. Right? Good questions, though. Questions about autism. Yeah.
Are people I've known with a child that has autism, they could have more than one that had autism. Are they predisposed?
Well, so it's a genetic condition. And so, yeah, we have a lot of families who come out there and they have 3 kids on the autism spectrum. And they're all different. That was one of the videos, the video I was going to show you guys with my mom talking about that. When her first kid was diagnosed, she was like, okay, I got this. He was really high function. So she's like, this is okay. We can do this. Second child was born, really low function. Still nonverbal at 10. So that was a whole game changer. And then her third child was diagnosed and she's like, I don't even know what to do. Like, how do I even survive this, right? But she's doing great and her kids are doing all amazing, but they are all very different on the spectrum and they come with their own rule book, just like all of our kids, right? But it is very different for each one of them. But it is very common that a lot of our families have even one child on the autism spectrum. Not all of their children, but usually if there's 3 or 4 kids, there's 2 of them that are. Mm-hmm.
Question. So when I was growing up, I don't remember a whole lot of kids around autism. And now, perhaps maybe they were in the background or something like that at that time. Is there some type of, in your work, have you seen is there a reason why we're seeing an increase in autism? What are your thoughts on that?
There's a lot of different reasons to answer that question. I think there's more awareness, which is phenomenal, right? I remember even when I was growing up, that there was a lot of people who were just odd, and that was acceptable, right? But if you also look at our culture today, the way individuals on the autism spectrum learn things is through repetition of behaviors, right? And being straight up told what it is that you expect of them. They need it black and white. They're very literal, right? So if you think about it, back in the 40s, 50s, everybody sat down to eat at the table. And you were taught manners, and you were taught how to talk, and when you could talk, and when you could not talk, and what you could talk about, and what you were not able to talk about. And those social norms were more enforced. And so it helped people who were on the spectrum, who were high functioning, to figure that stuff out. Now, today, the way our traditional culture is, we're not only sitting down at a table and eating, we're on the go. We're running, and they're having a harder time learning these things because no one's taken the time to structure and repetitively expect these certain behaviors of them. So that has an effect on that. Our culture for sure does. Then you add in social or technology, right? And it's so easy to get sucked into this device, right? So one of the ways that individuals on the spectrum cope with all the sensory input that we were talking about is we can filter things in and out and turn those knobs up and down. They can turn all of them off except for one, and they zero in on it. So those tablets do a great job of quieting their chaos from noise. And so they get really fixated on those devices, and those devices make it very difficult for them to cope with everything else around the world, because this is easy and this is hard. And so that can also make it a little bit harder. So we're seeing a lot more prevalence of it, but I think our environment has something to do with it, along with awareness, right? But then also, just a lot of it is what we diagnose. So if you've ever heard of Temple Grandin, she was just recently here in Tyler. When she was a child, she's 75 years old, 4 years old, got turned 75. And she is, when she was early diagnosed, they were thinking she had juvenile schizophrenia, is what they would call it. Because they're people who are reacting to things that we don't react to. So they thought they were more like hallucinations or delusions. But it's not that, it's just that we have filtered our brain and we ignore them. They don't have that capability. It was a very different thing. And so education on what is autism has changed dramatically over the years as well. What we're diagnosing is more. So there's actually a group of 18 to 30-year-olds that would be diagnosed today when they were 4 years old, 2 years old, and weren't. And so now you've got people entering into the workforce and they're realizing, oh, we've got all these social disparities and we're struggling, and they're starting to get diagnosed, to get help with that. So I don't know if that answers your question. There's a whole bunch of components to it. There's not just one thing that's causing this.
We didn't do that as well as I did, so.
Right? And we just don't do those things as repetitively, and we don't black and white state the rule. And they don't keep hitting that rule everywhere they go, right? And so it makes a difference. Yeah.
Our granddaughter has been diagnosed with borderline high functioning autism. It's borderline.
So it's like the whole spectrum thing is what I do, and then I greet them where they all are. Families come to me and they all tell me, oh, we're level 1, we're level 4, we're level 3, and there's they're borderline. So what that means is she's high functioning, she's doing great. Maybe she's got some social oddities. It's probably what I would initially take from that. But I bet there's a lot more under that. And so what we find with autism is that they have things that they're really strong at. If you're able to capture that or expose them to it, then they're going to be phenomenal at that. But they're going to have some weaknesses on this end somewhere. We've even found that some of our lower functioning nonverbal individuals who are adults, if you give them a keyboard and teach them how to type, all of a sudden they're writing novels. So Temple Grandin talks about their brain is like the cloud. We all know the cloud. We all have everything stored up on the cloud, right? It's taking in information all the time. It's all knowing to a degree, but it's constantly learning. But with autism, we're accessing their cloud of data with 1 bar of data out at Elijah's retreat out in the country. And so the output is slow. But we judge what somebody knows by their output, don't we? But that doesn't necessarily mean the output, the disconnect between their brain and their mouth, may be drastically different. Does that make sense?
For what I've seen, the number of people that I know who do have autism or have children who are autistic, most of them are men. Is that high?
Great question too. So there are women who are on the autism spectrum. There's some amazing women, but it is also diagnosed with dirt, and it's diagnosed sometimes less often. The genetics, they're saying, statistics say that there are more men than women on the autism spectrum, but they're also saying that women are most often misdiagnosed. And it's because as women, you guys know, we're a little more social creatures, and we're feeding off of those things, so we're learning. It's kind of issue. There we go. Now it's better. Thank you. Yeah. So they are able to cope more with the social cues because they're looking more for it. I can speak more closer to my.
No, they changed the batteries, but it's flashing red.
One of our counterparts was not diagnosed until he was much older. But his ability, in terms of the numbers, specifically, in fact, I hired him because we were integrating some new systems, and I was like, he can do that.
Brilliant.
With a very simple stuff.
You don't have to remind him to take a lunch break. Yes. But he's brilliant, and he's gonna follow that trail all the way down, 100%. And that's what it is. And so there are less women diagnosed, but there's a question out there of how many more are just missed because we're more social. Does that make sense? We're coping better than our male counterparts sometimes. Does that make sense? She's gonna fix me up. But so what do we do at Elijah's retreat? You guys are great. I just also don't want to hold you too long. Okay. So what do we do about it at Elijah's retreat? We're kind of unique in the nation. We're approaching it from a different capacity. And so we have a 50-acre dude ranch about 40 minutes south of here in Jacksonville. And it's all fenced in 50-acre dude ranch. And we've got 5 cabins that families come from all over, from 40 counties here in Texas and from 10 other states as well. And so we've got 5 cabins. This is the tea house. And each cabin has their own living room, kitchen, because the families want to cook for their kids because they're very particular about what foods they eat. They have their own washer and dryer. They have their own parents' room with a queen-size bed. And then they have a kids' room. Well, that's much better. The kids' room with 4 twins with 2 sets of bunk beds. And so it's a comfortable cabin the whole family gets to come and stay at because everything we do is for the entire family. There's a lot of organizations that represent individuals on the autism spectrum. There's a lot of support groups for moms or dads or even siblings. But there's very few places in the nation where the whole family gets to come together and participate in everything together. And that's what we do. So we have these cabins for the families to come and stay at. And we're open March 1st to mid-November. So yes, I've got 5 families out there right now for spring break. And what we do is we pick up all the families with the ranch hand experience. So in the morning, we go around each of the cabins and we bring all of the families together and we take them out and we show them how to feed a cow. They get to actually hand feed the cows. They get to go in there with the baby goats and the big goats, Nigerian dwarf goats, and hand feed them. And face new and face fear and face the sensory overwhelmingness of all of that, but support them and teach the parents how to do these things, right? How to do new, how to accept the no and see if it's no that they're scared or no they don't want to do it and understand the difference and show them how to overcome that. The chickens have been one of our favorite animals. The kids who are nonverbal will interact with those chickens all day long. I have no idea. I would have never guessed. But they're the ticket man. But just bringing all of the 5 families together is really huge as well because these families haven't always met other families who are walking that walk. And that's a huge thing. Also for the kids to be able to find other kids who are similar to them on the spectrum and to make friends. We celebrate so many birthday parties because they don't have anyone to invite to their birthday party. And so to bring them together and to celebrate and to have their friends from Elijah's retreat that they get together with a couple times a year means everything to that whole family. The other thing we do right after the ranch hand experience is we do therapeutic riding instructions. And so with that, we get to help the kids face their fear and get up on a horse and see what that looks like. And so a lot of families, so the first time they come, I'll be going over the schedule, what we're going to do, and they'll tell me, oh, my kid's not going to get on that hayride. I'm like, okay, they don't have to. They don't have to do any of these activities. But if they want to, we'll help them figure out how to do it, right? And so with that, the things with the horse, they'll tell me, oh, no, there's no way my kid's going to ride a horse. And then they never stop looking at that horse. They have no idea how to get up on that horse. They're absolutely terrified, but they want to do it. And they just need someone to teach them how to overcome that fear and how to push through and how to get up there and how to do it. Right? That's the biggest thing. When they look back at their mom and they're saying, thank you for helping me do this, either with their eyes or with their words. And then we flip it on the mom, and we say, okay, Mom, Jimmy got up there. Now it's your turn. Right, Jimmy? Should Mom get up there? And Mom's like, oh, today. Jimmy, right? And that's a game changer for the whole family, right? The siblings also get to be able to play games together, and we try to make it competitive in their own way, that they get to compete with one another, because where do they get to do that, right? So we are working on balance, we're working on strength, we're working on all kinds of things, but we're also connecting the family the whole time, which is pretty powerful. The other thing about therapeutic writing is, again, if you look at them from a sensory world that they experience differently, the somatosensory motion of riding a horse. When we put a kid who's really tense and really overwhelmed with autism up on that horse, it's amazing. I mean, 5 seconds, you start to see their whole body go from this stiff, terrified to like starting to calm down. And after about 5 minutes, they're completely like a limp noodle. They completely relax. And there's some families who've never seen their kid actually be able to relax to that capacity. And so we'll pick them up off the horse because they're starting to kind of sway because they're relaxed completely. And they'll just like fall on me and just, not fall, but like will lay on me and they're just completely limp. We'll pass them to mom and she'll take them back to the cabin and they'll take a nap for the first time in years. Because their whole body will calm down from that motion of just riding the horse and the interaction between them and the horse. It's powerful. I don't know how to do that in any other way, but the horses give them, and it's remarkably powerful for them. Then they know that exists in the world and they can find that state of calm again. But without them ever experiencing that, you can't get them to try things, right? Because everything's just overwhelming. So out at the 50-acre retreat, we do have a big jumping pillow, we have an activity barn, we have bicycles, which is a huge thing. The families get to ride bicycles. A lot of the kids with autism have a very core weakness, and they've never steered anything. And so riding bikes out on the street is a very dangerous thing, so we work through that. But if they don't learn how to drive a bike, they can't learn how to drive a car because they don't know how to steer. And so those are kind of those baby steps of getting towards that independence. So during the day, they have the whole 50 acres to run and explore, and the families get to do all of those things. They get to drive a barrel train all around. They've got a 1 acre fenced-in playground. They've got music rooms where they get to play the drums or piano. They get to go hiking. They get to go fishing at the fishing pond, all those different things as a whole family, which is really cool. So then the other thing that we added 5 years ago, so our second season at Elijah's Retreat, we added an internship program for youth with autism. Because down in Jacksonville, I noticed there's all these great young adults with autism who are in high school, and there's nowhere for them to go once they graduate. And they didn't know what to do, what would be next for them. And so we jumped in knowing these statistics that 85% of adults with autism are either underemployed or unemployed. And so we're paying for these people. Their quality of life is very, very minimal. Because if they're just sitting at home, they're not contributing, that contributes to a lot of mental illness, right? A lot of depression. And so the life expectancy is about 54 years old, according to Autism Speaks. And that's not okay. And so what we did at Elijah's Retreat, the last slide's in there. I don't know. Anyway. Bye. All right. But we started an internship program with youth with autism. So we partnered with Jacksonville High School and we partnered with Texas Workforce Commission to where they get to actually come out to Elijah's Retreat and be their very first job and see what that looks like. And I can promise you the first 2 weeks, it's, why do I need a job? My parents pay for everything. I don't need to cook for myself. Don't need to know how to do any of these skills. Why am I here? And after about 2 weeks, it usually takes about 2 weeks, but after about 2 weeks, they start to realize that they've got little kids out at the retreat looking up to them and admiring them. Mom's coming up to them and saying, you work here? That's amazing. Tell me about that. And they get to be the hero, and they're making a difference. And they love it. And the only way they're going to learn that is by doing it. You're never going to be able to sell them on it. And so for them to come out and we work through those first couple of weeks of, I don't want to shovel poop. I want to do this. I don't want to do that. And they do it anyway. They see the merit of what they're doing. It changes their trajectory on what they can do. And we work through all of those fun social things of lunch breaks and how to tell a joke, or that somebody's telling a joke. So we've got a rule at Elijah's Retreat because we got a lot of literal people that if you tell a joke, you finish it with, I'm just joking. So we can teach all of these different social things. And it really does make a really big difference for these individuals. So last year we had 11 interns. We've had 25 interns over the years. And last summer, we had one intern who had come out the last 2 summers, and he actually stepped up as a mentor for all of our autism interns that year. And so he got to lead everybody else, and he was so nervous about it. And he was like, why are you asking me? And he did a phenomenal job inspiring the next generation, the people coming up under him, to be able to do their job and to work and what working is and all of those different things. So at Elijah's Retreat, kind of are approaching autism a little different. We're trying to wrap around that whole family. We're trying to give these youth with autism the chance to try to do new and get out into the workforce and to realize what they can do beyond just sitting at home, right? But yeah, you have questions.
So what does happen to severely disabled adults when their parents finally die?
Yeah, it's a scary, hard thing. A lot of families are walking out. So there's a lot of different things. There's Breckenridge Village, which is right here in Tyler. They're amazing. And that's a facility where they can't live independently completely. They could live there and have people looking out for them. A lot of families will tell me that they've had more kids because they're hoping their younger child will be able to take care of their son or daughter. And so again, the goal is to try to help them become as independent as possible. But there are a lot of different, there are places that they can live, but there's also ways, I set up our families who are asking me those questions with a lawyer who has devoted her whole practice to setting up funds for their kids so they can set up sets of money that the kid will always have access to provide for them and things of that nature. But it is a hard question of what are we going to do? So we need more places like Breckenridge. Yeah.
Is there a cost for a family to go there?
There is. So we usually charge a family $75 a night to come out and stay, but for the last 2 seasons we've had, which is March to November, we've had a funder who's paid 100% for the families.
Oh.
So we do try to keep it at a minimum for them, because that includes all of their activities and everything. And so the families do pay a $30 deposit when they book, and that's all that they pay.
Awesome. You mentioned putting hamburgers and autism.
Yeah. Technically not a term anymore that they're throwing out there, but we all do it anyway. But it's just your higher functioning kids on the autism spectrum. So that was just brought back into the autism spectrum itself. So Elon Musk, Asperger's. Temple Grandin, Asperger's. Just super high functioning. Yeah.
Set up there, the life expectancy is 54 years old. When they reach around that age, what do they usually pass on?
Mental illness.
This is
It's a lot of just their lower quality of life. They're sitting around, and if they're not doing anything, not physically active. And if they're not, they don't have a lot of self-worth because they're not doing it. Right? Don't put me at home. I wouldn't do well with that. Yeah.
You find that video games are a net benefit or net detriment?
Well, it depends on how you use it. It can be a great useful tool. There's a lot of people who are using their iPads to be able to communicate. So there are devices where they are able to, if they're nonverbal, where they can actually talk through it. There's a lot of educational ways that they can learn and you can challenge them. But of course, if they're given it all the time, well, then I would say that would be a loss, right? Still have to learn how to cope in the world, just like all of us. But it's going to be a greater addiction for them because it quiets their world in a way that they are seeking, right? Yeah.
Do you understand or this in the field, you understand why there's so much insomnia? My friend's little boy does not sleep.
Well, it depends how many of you sleep very well at a different place. I know I don't, because I hear all the creaks and all of the things. Well, they don't have any capability of quieting that no matter where they are. So they don't ever get used to their environment like we do. But also, again, we do find at Elijah's Retreat, when they're outside running all day, they burn a lot of energy and they sleep. So it also depends how active they are. You know, our society, I think with these tablets and devices and things, we're not always very active. So then when we go to bed, our brain is still going, and we're not tired. So I think there's a lot of components with that. But yeah, insomnia is a huge part of it. It is, yeah.
So I've seen what a Lunch Crew does. My family's very involved with them. I've got friends that have kids with autism, or family that has kids with autism, and what they do for families is truly amazing. But what can we do to help? I mean, y'all, I know you'll have a gala every year that raises funds so these families don't have to pay, for the stay. What can we do to help?
Yeah, we always need volunteers coming out there with us. Since we've added a 5th cabin, the tea house, with the Trimble family, we are also going to be opening a 6th house. Novum Energy out of Houston has come behind us and is funding the entirety of a whole cabin for us. So we're going to be opening our 6th cabin in May 4th, which is exciting. We'd love for you to come out and get a tour of the facility and celebrate with us. But we need volunteers because we went from having 3 families at a time to now we're going to be having this summer 6 families at a time. So we would love your help in just walking alongside us with the horses, or helping some of our interns, just kind of coaching some of them and working with them, or just volunteering at some of our fundraising events. Or we have a big fall festival on November 16th, which is a lot of fun. Come out and volunteer at that. And we have so many families from all over with all kinds of disabilities who come out for that because it's a big festival that they're welcome at and they can have success at. So come out and volunteer. Also, always, of course, donations really help sponsoring some of our families, sponsoring some of our tables at our events and things help our bottom line, of course. But then also just spread the word, right? So if you have families in your life who have autism, we'd love to run around them and help them. If you have family or individuals in the Tyler area who need to work, we recommend them starting working at 14. And they can get paid to come out through Texas Workforce, but the earlier the better, not later. But yeah, so help us spread the word. Thank you, Tom.
I know we're close to out of time, but I have to ask you, you are so beautiful and so vivacious, and I love your passion for what you're doing. Can you just give us a quick blurb on how you got into Elijah's Retreat?
God. That's a quick blurb. But I worked in foster adoption right out of college. And so my degree is in psychology, and so I worked in foster adoption. I was a foster mom for a year in downtown Houston with medically fragile babies and individuals on the autism spectrum and other disabilities. I then grew up in that agency as a caseworker and eventually as the adoption coordinator. And it's a small little foster adoption agency downtown Houston that only takes in kids with special needs, that their adoptions are completely free and they don't pay their foster homes. They just go do it in a different way. But I learned attachment and how to support those families and the crucial of attachment. If we don't ever know that somebody cares about us, our world is very small and our options are very small. And so the very least that we can do is to show people that they matter, right? And so if we can do that, we can change the world. And so I was a stay-at-home mom then, after working at Casa de Esperanza de los Niños. That was the House of Hope for Children in downtown Houston. Ended up getting married to my sweet husband and having 5 kids, which you would laugh. So I was an adoption coordinator, so I made my husband promise if we couldn't have kids, we would adopt. So, means to say we have 5 kids. God, we had a plan. But as a stay-at-home mom, we heard about Elijah's Retreat closing here in East Texas. Didn't know about it until I heard it was closing. And we just saw the potential that it would be. And so we took a leap of faith and we came up here to East Texas as a family and jumped in and have just been watching God run with us.
God bless you.
In one case, easily donate a book of your name to the Literacy Council. And now we'll move on to the Ace of Diamonds. I think she's going to let you pick the ticket. How much is in the?
We have $745 and 41 cards. So if you would just draw one and read the left.
The person who brought you gets a quarter and a thumb in the pack.
You guys ready? Yeah. You got your tickets? Okay, 9, 8, 1, 1. 9, 8, 1, 1.
1.
Is that the one that fell on the floor that's over there?
Do we need to get a new one? No? Take it up? Do another one.
That person snuck out.
Okay, do this again. All right, we're still at 9, still at 8, 0, 5.
No.
Oh. Congratulations. Great. I'll say.
Now, well, then we'll do the floor test and the things we didn't say. First. Second, it's federal censor. Third, rule of the will that friendships. Fourth, rule of the individual laws. Third, we are adjourned. Hello. That's not what I'm saying.